We have like a good flow. I like the Wednesday routine.
It's one of the best days. I go to bed on Tuesday nights, tired a little bit.
Yeah, because the late skate,
later
yeah.
night, longer days, and then I get really jacked to do our podcast in the morning.
That's fun.
Because usually, like you, the Wednesday workouts aren't quite as hard, so it's kind of ease into your day. Have a big old cup of coffee.
Yeah,
a
big
bit
one
amino
today.
Acids,
Yeah,
and then get ready for the podcast. And I was glad we got a call or a text the other day with someone asking some questions. So
yeah, it's gonna be good. Before we get to that,
before that,
we have to bullshit for a bit.
yeah, for sure.
I forgot to tell you this. I got to use my degree on the weekend.
No,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. I didn't even
Tell
tell you
me
about this. Somebody drove by my parents' new vehicle and smacked the driver
What kind
mirror
of
off.
vehicle did they get?
A Dodge Journey. It's black. It's quite nice. I like it.
Yeah.
And my brother took it to school and parked it on the road, and somebody drove by and gave the mirror a smack.
Really?
So got to replace the mirror.
Would it not be under warranty?
It was a used car. So
That's why you always buy new.
so anyways, you can go on, and I did this with my car because somebody did the same thing to my mirror.
Yeah, I remember you
You
doing
can
this.
just go
Yeah.
buy one. You can find them online wherever, and it's like $100 for the part, but it's the labor is what smacks you, right?
Yeah.
So I did it on my car. So my parents asked if I could do it on their car, and I was like, yeah, I'm sure it's generally the same thing. So it was. You have to take the door panel off, and whatever. So I got to be handy and use some tools and whatever. So my sister's fiance bought the mirror and brought it in.
Yeah.
So beautiful thing about the world. Here's a tip for all humans, kids especially. Be resourceful, man. You can almost always solve your own problem if you take 5 minutes to go online. So I go on the YouTubes, interwebs, and I type in exact model of the car, Dodge Journey mirror replacement, and look at that. Video
Really?
comes
Just
up.
right there, eh?
Yeah, mechanic doing the full replacement.
So so you think that was the engineering piece?
No, I'm getting there. So I'm really laying the foundation here. Okay, so I know. So I get the door off. So I had to take the whole door off the car, like the internal panel thing, not the actual door off the car. So I undo everything, get it all done, put the new mirror on, only to realize that the connector on the new mirror doesn't fit the old socket where it needs to be plugged in.
Right.
So I'm like, oh shit, what do I do now? So it ended up taking me about 4 hours to figure out how to get this thing to go into the car. So what I had to do is I had to cut the wires off the old mirror. So connector piece, 3-4 wires coming out of it. So I cut a big chunk of the wire off. Then the other mirror, same thing, chopped them off. And then I had to splice the wires together.
Wow.
So I got to actually
You
use
weren't worried about an electrocute it?
No, because I know because I know how it works.
Yeah.
So I got to use my degree.
Cool,
there
man.
it is. So it was cool. It was like I didn't have the tool to cut the wires, so my sister's fiance came over with the like splice
Wire
cutters
snappers.
to
pull the insulation off.
exactly. That's right. Yeah. So you know.
Yeah.
So then I had to like twist and figure out how the wires linked up to the controls on the mirror and stuff like that. So
basically it was your electrical engineering, right?
Yep. So that's like would be more the hardware side. So my degree, half of my degree was like designing circuits and wiring things and like little components and stuff like that. And then the other half was doing like more software stuff. So like programming, coding, whatever. So I was so engaged, man, the whole time.
Awesome.
So as frustrating and like pain in the ass as that is, because it should have been a half an hour, just like plug the new one in and we're done. It ended up being like 4 or 5 hours that I had to sort this thing out, and it was good.
This is the difference between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember trying to change brakes one time because my household, I have someone that's actually very mechanical. He was married to my mom.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, can you help me get my brakes? And I was broke as shit. Eh?
Yeah.
He goes, oh, you could try it. He goes, just figure it out. Take it apart and put it back the way it did. And I'm like, okay, winter, Sudbury, cold. No gloves, all that stuff. Piece of shit car.
Yeah.
So it's taking the brakes and the spring. Just you got to know what you're doing, right?
Yep.
That spring to go into that hole just wasn't reaching. So I'm starting to snap. This is about 35 seconds into my adventure. No, a little longer, but my patience goes opposite of you.
Yeah.
So then that spring came out and flew into a snowbank, and I got onto my car. And I started smacking the shit out of it, spitting on it, losing it, hating my life. But you got an unbelievable set of patience. Like even just doing website stuff, like with our website or dealing with certain things, or you just go and you just
I think it's
steady.
I think it's because I'm
steady as she goes.
interested in it. That's why. So it becomes engaging. Like because normally any problem that I'm working on, like someone has already solved the problem.
Yeah.
So it's like a good amount of have to figure it out. It's not so challenging that I can't figure it out, because then it gets like discouraging and frustrating. So it's a good amount of challenge where like I know I'll find the answer. So that keeps me going. Whereas if you feel like you're defeated, if you feel like you're defeated by it or whatever, then you don't want to do it anymore. You get frustrated, you want to quit, you don't want to do it. So it's like it's right on that line people call like say being in flow.
Yeah.
Where it's like a good amount of challenge where like you're not bored but you're not discouraged. It's like right in the middle. And I find that's where I get with a lot of like little techie things like that. It's a good amount of challenge for me. So I have a lot of patience in those situations for sure. But it's the interesting thing about it, this is what I was going to get to, is you were talking last week when we were talking about experience and how important it is to have experience and like playing. We were talking about in terms of playing experience and stuff like that. And it's so funny, like you make parallels with everything, eh?
Who? Between like human beings?
Yeah,
okay.
You can draw like
when did I start that?
Like hockey is life, and mechanic stuff you can relate to life, and it's all the same stuff. Like I'm looking at like, so I did my mirror on my car and made some mistakes doing it. Like I broke one of the clips on the plastic part of the door that goes on top.
Yeah.
I broke one of the clips because I'd never taken it off before, so I didn't know how to take it off properly, and I broke one of the clips. So then I go to my parents' car, and I was a lot more careful taking it off, so I didn't break a clip. But there's like new problems that I run into on my parents' car because it's a newer car, so there's a lot more stuff in there.
Yeah.
So you constantly
might not be the same clip.
Exactly, right? But you run across new problems that you haven't seen before. Yeah. So you can either make mistakes or not make mistakes because you don't have the experience, right? So that experience piece it's really important. You see like someone who's a really good mechanic or really good at whatever their trade is, or you talked about it in terms of taking face-offs. You go against somebody who's taken 10,000 face-offs. It's like they know all of the moves on face-offs, so it's just it was interesting to think about in terms of the experience thing too.
Experience is everything.
Yeah. So that's my little intro story for you today.
I like it. I was going to talk to you about remember I told you the other day, I said, do you want to be a rock star? Would you be a rock star?
Yep.
I was telling this to Siegs last night. We had a nice talk last night. Good. Nice to talk to someone with a brain. Mm-hmm. It's when I can talk to someone.
Yeah, it's great.
But I was asking him the same question about being a rock star. He goes, oh, it's so hard because he was in Nashville. He was the audio and all that stuff, doing recording and stuff. Anyways, when I asked you, would you like to be a rock star? You took it to a different level, meaning, and good question, by the way. Mm-hmm. But so what I meant is like, when I listen to music and hear someone either drums, sing, play, like just shred on a guitar, I go, wow, man, that's amazing. So I like, for example, I threw a video on of Metallica Fade to Black. So you're watching James Hetfield starts on the acoustic guitar, then he flips it over to the electric guitar, and then was it Kirk Hammett, I
don't know the name,
the guitar player. It just looks like it's just natural for them. It's so good and it's so amazing. And I like, if I could do that, I would love that. Mm-hmm. And then the reason I asked you that question was, but there's nothing about the process to get to be an elite. Well, I'm not a music guy anyways, but there's nothing about that process that interests me. Like I don't have the patience to play guitar or to play drums. I play actually smack up drums. I got a natural ability for that. Like,
keep the beat. Yeah.
But the process, like nothing. So I look at like, okay, would I want to be a a high school kid carrying my guitar case around? No. Most musicians, when they're teenagers, in my world, they look different. They look weird. They look odd. They look like guys that I wouldn't want to be like. And then you got to play in shit live venues or not. And everyone's like, okay, as if you're going to be a rock star. But when you get the finishing piece, man, that would be the coolest thing ever. Yeah. But everything before, not a chance. But then you brought up the point.
Yeah, I started to talk about it.
Because that made I couldn't do that. It looks so weird to me.
And that's the difference with people that you love what you do, right? Because then the shit parts don't feel like work, right? So because I was talking about it in terms of hockey, and it's like when you were playing through junior and when you were younger and whatever, you would have still played if there was no one watching.
Yeah.
Just because you loved it, right? And
Well,
that's
that's
what
when you go and shoot your pucks.
exactly, right? So all the shit things that it takes to be a hockey player, it's the same thing for a musician, right? Like
Yeah.
my dad has told me stories because he had a pretty well-known band when he was like in the 80s or whatever, and they would travel around to like shittier places, and some places were great, some places were shitty, but when they were starting, he was playing in shitty spots. But it doesn't matter because you just like to play. You know, it's okay if 5 people are listening, like that's fun still. You know, because you just
love your music
playing. You
and
love
you're
to
playing.
perform, or you love to play music, whatever the case is. But the interesting thing about with musicians in particular now is you don't really see a lot of rock stars anymore because of the internet, right? So now people they don't really have to do as much of like those steps you're talking about. Like you may never have to go play live ever, and you could be famous because
Yeah.
you're just really good at singing or really good at you
Yeah.
just make videos of it and whatever. So it's kind of a
It's different, eh?
but it's still that process piece of going through the shitty practice times. And that's what people think that all the time. Like, would you want to do something or would it be nice to do something?
Yeah.
You know, and like to be a rock star, to be on stage in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, like that would be nice. But to actually be a rock star, to do what it takes to get to that level, like that's where people don't want to do it, right?
But for hockey, 100%.
Yeah.
So and it was funny because now when you made that parallel, it made total sense. Because I'd sleep on a rock. My billets, I remember one of the guys that I trained got drafted, got traded, couldn't get mentally put it together. He had the talent. And he, one of the coaches, first house he's used to what was it? He was used to a bigger dresser. And it was a little bit bigger dresser. And he's used to a double bed. That's what we told the coach. So the coach goes, yeah, junior, right? OHL.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't make the team yet.
Yeah.
So coach says, "Well, let me see what I can do." Moved him somewhere else with another guy, and then he went in. He goes, "Coach, it's a little too far from I'd rather be closer to the rink." So coach said, "Okay." This is actually what the coach said. He goes, what we're looking at, hopefully getting like a condo complex across the rink, across the street there. He goes, but we're not doing that, okay? So pack your bags and get the hell out of here. So he blew it. Like, not blew it. Yeah, he kind of blew it. He's like, not a chance there. My point was, and I told him, I said, I would have slept on a rock, man.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity. This is what you do. It's part of the struggle.
Yep.
It's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So when I listened to like Van Halen or when I was watching an interview with what's his name? David Lee Roth. He's talking about they had these, they'd make like just a small amount of money every week and they'd go and they'd go to a breakfast place like 3 a.m, Denny's, and they'd just load up, eat, and they'd eat, that'd be it for the week, and the rest of it was a struggle, and they'd pack a van and they'd go play somewhere else and pull their money together, and it was like, I'm like, God, it's just kind of weird, but I don't understand that dream, right?
Yep. But
for hockey, I've done it. You've done it. That's what we do, right? Yeah. You ride the pine, you go through the rookie stuff, you do all this stuff. Yep. You sacrifice so much of your life, and I guess if you're not in hockey, I guess that's why people would say, because I never really understood before.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's why people say, well, like, why are you working so? Like, why do you work out so much? Why? Well, you can have a burger. You can do this. They don't understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Siegs and I were talking about that last night when he was in a band, because I brought up that music comment. I think you were leaving when I brought it up to him. He goes, "Oh, Andy, I used to love like anywhere to go play anywhere, because even if there was like we would go to a bar and play." He goes, "We got to play our music loud. We didn't have to worry about getting kicked out." And he goes, "If there's a couple people there, the bartender, whatever," he goes, "I didn't care. It was awesome. It was the best thing." Yep. And but he goes, for him as a musician, he said, that's why he moved to Nashville, because he wanted to know if he was any good. So he was around here and he went there, and then he realized, as a musician, I'm no good. I'm horrible. Yeah. Like very average. So I brought up, and this is the last thing I was going to say about before we start our thing. I said, it's amazing when you see excellence. I mean, I always talked, I think a couple of weeks ago, I talked about, if you buy a suit, a good salesman will tell you this, so a bad salesman will say, yeah, here's your suit. So I just had an experience yesterday. I was at a place, and first time I went there, the girl was like, yes, sir. Well, I said, what package can I get? She goes, oh, they're right here. And she was nice, but she was just like uninterested. Yeah. I'm not working hard. Oh, and yesterday when I popped in, the owner was there, and the owner was like, hey, how are you? She called me babe. I thought that was pretty good. She called me babe, and she she was like professional. It's like there's a level of professionalism that's so good. So I was telling, so Sieg said with hockey, he goes, I always thought I was maybe had what it takes, but he goes, then I realized like being around you and being around other, like some of the pro guys and stuff, he goes like, I was no good. Like I was no good. I said, oh, this game is so incredibly amazing. I said, the thing is like the best players actually are the hardest workers as well. You see a guy like Sidney Crosby who is so freaking good. He's so good. And a few years ago, he decided that he needed to get better on face-off. So every day for a year after practice, he'd sit there and do face-off after face-off after face-off after face-off. So the best players are typically always the hardest workers too. So now you can't even compete. They've got talent plus the hard work.
Yeah.
So I was telling them, I said, people really don't understand how good you have to be an NHL hockey player. Like the little things. Like Zach Kassian, for example, like he could be skating hard. You can give him the hardest pass you possibly can in limited space, and if it's in his skates, he'll kick it up. If it's anywhere near him, he's got it. He's not missing that pass. He never will, and he never will. And people would look at that and be amazed, but it's just that's how he has to be. So I was telling him a story about. So this would have been. So I'm thinking Webby was retired for. I would say it's probably 2016, 2017. And I was finishing up with those guys right there. Yep. Crowder, Eck, Cass, Willie, Kirby, Henny, all those guys.
Yep.
Ott and Webby. So Webby, we're doing some finishing drills, and Charlie was about, 6 years ago. So he was like, what? Do the math, right? 7?
Yeah.
I don't know what the math is.
9.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah.
So he was yeah.
Good 9 or 10.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say it was that. Because he had his long hair still. And we're finishing up, and we're doing a shooting drill. So Webby, a defenseman, he's always he was assistant captain for Buffalo. 6'2", big guy, hard working hockey player, but not skilled. And I'm not cutting him up. He wasn't skilled, but skilled more than most people.
Relative to hockey players.
So, but he was a 5'6" D his whole career, and block shots and stuff. Anyways, we're doing the shooting drill, and they're from the high slot. And from the point, because Eki was shooting and stuff. Otter. So Webby goes and stands in front of the net. I've never seen it before. I've been around hockey. I've seen everything in my life. Never seen this before. So Webby goes, and we're like, Aaron Ekblad is cracking slap shots. I'm shooting. I shoot the freaking puck out. So I was shooting, and Webby's standing there with a stick like this, like upside down. So I take a little bit off, and so it's coming near his head, and he just goes like this. Top. So Charlie goes, Dad, he's crazy. I go, no, like he's good at it and stuff. But I've taken some off. And he yells at me, he goes, no, go fire, man. So I'm adding a little bit more zip to the shot to the point where I'm ripping him. And then Eki's shooting, and the NHL guys are shooting. He's standing right dead center in the middle. He's got a stick like this and didn't miss a puck. He's a defenseman. Yeah. No skill McGill. Yeah. Standing in front of the net. Every shot. And he's not holding it like a hockey player. He's holding it like this, like this. Yeah. Like I'm a lefty. Yeah. His blade's here. So it would come on this side and he'd just go click. Tap. And they're coming in hard. 85 to 100 miles an hour. Yeah. Didn't flinch. Yeah. So I was sitting there going, I've never actually seen anyone do that before. Yeah. So this is a guy with basically no skill at the NHL level. Yeah. And he didn't miss one puck coming at him full shots. And another example of that was we had Michael Layton that used to skate with us quite a bit. He was a goalie, NHL goalie, mostly a backup. Played a long time, though. And the guy's at the university. So when we were done in the summer, he skated with the university before he went to Carolina to finish his last year. And the guy said that in practice, they couldn't score on him. Backup goalie in the NHL.
Yeah, backup
goalie in the NHL. So in a practice, how many shots are you getting? Not one went in the net. Not one. So you're getting breakaways, you're getting 2-on-0s, 3-on-0s, blah, blah, blah. And I've shot on Mike. He's really good. Yeah. Not one. So when people sit there and watch the game and think you're going to score in the NHL level, like you got to be precise. Yeah. You got to be good. You got to be even a little bit lucky. The goalies are so good. And so if Carey Price is out on the ice with you or Vasilevsky. Yeah. Can you imagine how amazing they are? Yeah. Like you just don't score.
Yeah. And when you watch the game, like everyone is relatively in the same ballpark playing, right? So you don't get to see how good these guys actually are, right? Because everyone is kind of in the same realm. So when you're looking at everyone who's basically the same, but more or less in the same ballpark, you don't see the contrast to like regular people. Or like if you get a college kid that comes out and is trying to make an NHL team, like these guys, I remember one of the guys we had in here went to Canucks camp.
Yeah.
And so it was development camp or whatever.
Yep.
And he was saying that we're sitting in the room and one of the guys in ownership or in upper management, whatever, comes in and he says, okay, guys, 2% of you are going to make the team. There's 40 guys, 40 guys at the camp. It was 2% of you are going to move on to like the next to main camp or whatever. So these are the numbers. We've had 200 guys in the OHL play in this level. We've had a bunch of these guys from the European leagues. We've had a bunch of these guys from all over the world. They're all the best, basically is what he's saying. We have all the best guys here. 2% of you are going to make it. So that means of however many 30 to 50 guys or whatever, there was like 2 guys or whatever that they're picking out of this group. And one of them was that Peterson kid that plays on Vancouver now. So really one, because that kid was already on. So it's like, and these are all the top of the top of the top of the top. And they're not good enough to make it. They won't make it. Dude. One kid of the group, you know?
Dude, it's well, okay, so I used another example with Siegs last night. Siegs is a nickname. So if anyone say, what's a seed? Sieg? Seg? Siegs is short for, is a nickname for him. So I was talking to Siegs last night, and I said, we're talking about how hard it is to make it. I said, so there's a guy that just signed an NHL contract. So I don't want to say his name because I don't want to, like, he plays against my son, plays junior against my son. And I've watched him play 4 games now. And yes, he's older. He's older. So this is part of the seasoning process. And it's like, so, but it's twofold. The 16, 17-year-old, you will be that guy. That's hard to understand, but like, it looks like such a big gap. Like he's so good, but every year you get a little bit closer and a little bit better. But anyways, I was telling Siegs last night, I go, here's a guy just signed in the NHL. They sent him back to junior. So I've watched 3-4 games. And this guy controls the game. He controls the game.
Yep.
He's not the best player, but he's got a presence. So he's tough. He's dirty. He has a look. He can skate. He can move the puck. He can shoot the puck hard. But he's not. If he wanted to take the puck from one end to the other, and then if someone wanted to play him, if he wanted to run them over, he would. He's just big and he's just a strong guy.
Yeah.
Like, right, and he's got that presence. This guy controls the game. Now, he does have a turnover, yes, whatever. So he reminds me a little bit of Dalton Prout. The same presence that Dalton has, the same type of skating, and that same toughness. So I said, but Montreal sent him back. So the people look at him and go, holy man, he controls the game. Like, he decides himself how rough this game's going to be.
Yep.
Or if he wants to have a quiet night, he's going to control that. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Because when he's on the ice, everybody just kind of,
he's
a little softer going to his corner, right?
Yep.
The hits aren't finished quite as completely on him. And when you do try to hit him, he already knows, like, it's just a skill. Yeah. He positions himself to hit you first.
Yep.
And it hurts every time. Yeah. And then when he decides to turn it up a bit, the hits become boom, boom, like every shift. Then he controls the puck and he creates more room. So he literally controls how rough the game's going to be. If he wants a quiet night, he's going to keep it a quiet night. Points, everything. But I was saying to Siegs, he's not in the NHL. And he's probably about 12 deep in that NHL lineup for his position. How good do you have to be if you can control an OHL game? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
100%, man. Yeah.
How good do you have to be?
It's amazing.
And that's what people really don't understand is, like, he's really good at the OHL level, but there's a dime a dozen of him. Yeah. Not a dime a dozen. I wouldn't say it that way. But he's not Shea Weber.
Well, in the NHL, there's a dime a dozen of those guys, right? Yeah. But
or a guy like that, but there's just way more skilled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, people that watch the game don't. That's the kind of stuff that people don't notice, right? Like when you surface watch the game, and you're just like there for the entertainment or whatever. Mm-hmm. All you pick out is like the top layer of stuff, right? Like who's the most skilled, who made a nice pass, like who had a nice shot. Like that's the kind of stuff that you notice. Yeah. But what you don't notice is stuff like that. And that's the stuff that makes somebody a player versus not a player. Because everyone can have like a shift that's flashy, right? Yeah. Everyone can have like a good play or like a really good quality shift or a nice hit. Like everyone can do that once. Yeah. But it's like the consistency and then the little things that make these players so good that nobody would even notice. Yeah. Right? It's like, it's even just like reading plays. Like when guys can pick passes off where they cut off lanes before an option is even available. Like people don't even notice that when they watch, right?
Yeah.
And when you try to explain that to people that have never played at a super high level where all that stuff starts to come into play, then they don't even know what they're looking at, you know, and relating it back when you're talking about being the rock star thing, it's the same thing if you look at another domain. Like you don't see all the extra shit that comes around to make that person what they are. You just see the top layer, finished product, like that kind of stuff, you know? So you can't even pick out what they're doing that's so amazing. You recognize that it's amazing, but you don't even know why. Like you can't even explain what it is they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like precisely that is so amazing, you know? So when that kid steps on the ice, the word presence, like that does it justice of what he just has a presence on the ice, but that I know what you mean when you say that specifically, but people don't really know what that means. Like, what do you mean he's got a presence on the ice? Like, what do you mean? It's like everyone on the ice knows that he's controlling the game.
Whether he has a puck or not.
But yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's the thing.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. As soon as he gets on the ice, you notice that he's there.
Yeah. He could change a kid, like especially a younger kid's shift with just a stare. He could line up on a face-off and just give you the furry eyeball.
Yep.
But every time someone comes around, he's stick something.
Well, and that's why it's actually serious, because he'll give you the furry eyeball, but then he'll actually do something. Like he'll actually whack you. He'll actually give you a hard hit. He'll get in your grill like that. He'll do all that stuff. That's what makes those guys so like fun to watch, right? Because they can totally determine how the game goes.
Snap and like go ahead and take a 4 or 5 or 8 minute penalty.
Oh yeah, I was like the other night, just right,
just for fun.
Yeah, just for fun.
Because he knows, this game's over. I'll just set the tone for the next game.
Exactly. It's exactly
but
man.
It's experience.
100%.
Knows how to run a game.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Knows how to run the show.
Yeah, you can't really teach that either. No. That's just something that comes with being seasoned and having that part of your game developed over time, right?
Yep.
But
so it's interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. Did you have something else, or I'm going to segue for you?
No, you're going to segue.
Want to see the segue?
You're going to do your thing.
Okay, so speaking of how difficult it is to make it to that next level, most of the time, people don't really know, like you were saying, people don't understand. You know, people don't understand what it takes. In the example you gave earlier was relating it to hockey players. Like, okay, yeah, I could eat that. I could go out and eat that, but I shouldn't eat that. And people don't get that. They don't understand, what do you mean you can't just eat that? Like, you could, you'll be fine. Coming to our topic for today, we had somebody send us a nice message with some feedback. And she was asking more or less, and you can specify, how to be someone who supports the athlete, basically. So she gave a bunch of examples of situations, like how do you be the supportive person to the athlete when they're in these situations. So basically today, I want you to walk through we'll go point by point what she said. And when you're in these situations, maybe if you are someone who hasn't, I feel like it's more important to be someone who hasn't been in that situation before. How can you play like a good supportive role, when, especially young athletes, when they're facing different decisions that they have to make throughout their career, dealing with positive and negative things that are going on. So I don't know if you want to sharpen up what she said.
So basically what she said, I took her sentence down, Victoria's sentence, and I just chiseled it down a little bit. She wanted to know, how do you support a player in times of stress, lost games, goal of playing in the NCAA or something along those lines, OHL, NHL, risks of being traded, and how can, so her question after that was, how can family and friends help the player go through things like that? So that's a good friend.
Yep.
It's a good person.
Yeah, for sure.
A caring person that wants to help. And so we're going to go through that kind of stuff today.
Yeah, great topic too.
It's great.
Really
and
good
so
topic.
I'm not going to just leave it as family or friends, because I think actually this topic is, this is something that is the essence of this podcast, more or less. It's like, how do we have, and coaches could be in there to help. How do we create an environment in hockey where this is helpful to parents, to players, to coaches, and how can we do it together? That's the essence of that question, really.
Yep.
And this is what we kind of try to do. That's what our purpose is of doing this. So, in my opinion, do you want me to go?
Yeah, go. Yeah,
okay.
Let her fly.
In my opinion, what all those things are is like stress of a hockey game, lost games, goal of playing NCAA or OHL, or risk of being traded. To me, all these things are just all it is. Like, okay, so stress or pressure, that's what that is, of making it, of performance. And then, so to me, this is all a mental toughness thing. And now, I don't want to sound like a broken record with mental toughness, but it really is. I mean, like, and why shouldn't it be? Because we always talk about the percentage of what percentage of hockey is actual and mental, but it's all.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about mind over matters. We're talking about like the whole gamut of things, and you see it every single day. So when we talk about pressure, I just want to talk about maybe two situations because I can actually talk about feelings that I had. So one was when I went to Russia, and I'm using this from a podcast that I had with Dr. Novetsky. I'm taking some of his stuff because it's very valuable. So one was in Russia. So I got invited. So ask if this is pressure. As an instructor, Igor Larionov, a Hall of Fame player, was on the Russian Green Line, Russian 5, Hall of Fame, Olympic gold medal, Stanley Cup winner. He asked me to train. He turned into an agent in Russia, and he asked me to train his developing players in Russia. So I went to Russia in Moscow and I trained his players. When he talked to me about it, I think I spoke about this before, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but when he asked me to go there, it was like an honor, obviously. And my question to him is like, why me? Don't you have people in Russia? He goes, no, you're the one I want. So that was a high compliment. So you might think, okay, that's great. You're awesome. Go. The flip side of that was once I said, okay, yes, let's do it. Now the pressure's on because it was a make or break it situation for me. Not make or break it, but if I did really well with Igor, then I get more work and I can cement myself as a quality skills coach around the world. If I don't do well, then that opportunity is gone, right?
Yep.
And I want to do well. It was a dream of mine. It was a physical written down dream or goal that I had was to go to Russia and around the world to do some teaching. So to get hired by a Hall of Fame coach or a player was like, couldn't get any better. He's like Wayne Gretzky in Russia. So there was pressure. I was flying over there and I could feel the pressure going, man, you have to perform. What's the ice like? And I had all these questions. What that's called the unknown, right? So that was one. I succeeded. I'm going to end that story on that. I succeeded with flying colors, got hired again and made Russian friends. And it was a success story. Okay. And there was a reason for the success. Go into that after. The second story I would say I was 16 years old, almost the same age as my son, playing the OHL. I fought not because I wanted to. I fought one of the toughest guys in the league, a monster. He at a home game, and he cleaned my clock, ragdolled me, beat the shit out of me. I'm 16 years old. He's 20, big, strong. He's got 20 fights a year. Cleaned my clock. So we played. That was in October. We played them. I think it was in November. Like say 3-4 weeks after that. For 3-4 weeks, that's all I thought about. Because when I go back to play the Belleville Bulls, we're at their home rink. He hates my guts. I have to go and do this again. He wants to fight me again. I'm a little kid. So for 3-4 weeks, that's all I thought about. It was like stress to the max every single day. And I had to talk to myself. You got to do it, man. You got to go there and you got to stand up for yourself. Whether you get your ass kicked again, you got to do it or else you're going to look like a chicken shit. And holy shit, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So what was that? That was what you call stress. That was called pressure. That was anxiety. All I thought about was that. And what is that again? That's the fear of the unknown. So I've done two things here. There's the fear of the unknown that I'm talking about, right? You're thinking too far. Like I'm not. Both of those, I'm thinking too far ahead of the what ifs. So I might have been all over a little bit. Russia was a success. The game 2 in Belleville, where I was going to fight that guy, he didn't play that game. He was either injured or suspended. Yeah. So I got on the ice. I'm looking around. I'm like, all right, this is great.
Yeah.
You know, but you think about those 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's all I thought about.
Yeah.
I my stitches weren't even healed from the first one, but that's all I thought about. So I was worried about nothing. It was like nothing happened, you know. So it was fear and anxiety for nothing. And then the NHL group was great. I got friends for life. To me, what the question was from Victoria is that in all different areas,
right?
And that's how I think I want to address that today.
Yeah. So basically, what we're going to get to is we're not going to focus so much on what the player does in those situations. We're going to focus more on, if you're a parent, if you're a coach, if you're someone who has influence on the athlete, what you can do. And the way that I actually have no idea what you wrote down, so I don't know what you're going to say, but to me, it ends up breaking down into like a couple of different ways to think about it. And one of the ways that a lot of people default to is like being positive. That's one like support mechanism. And I feel like that's probably the most popular, but not necessarily the most useful or the most beneficial. And I think, to me, like, just from the stories that you were just telling, the two things that I come back to all the time is, in order to be successful in those situations, it comes down to, one is like being prepared, and the second thing is like controlling things that you can control. So for
it will be going there.
Yeah. So in the fight, the example you're giving with the fight thing, it's like you can't control what's going to happen that next game, you know? So for you to work yourself up for 4 weeks, it would have been really nice to have someone to talk to be like, dude, like, first of all, this is part of the game. The guy's a fighter and he looks for fights.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with you personally,
Yep.
necessarily, unless you went and cheap shot him or something.
Yep.
I don't know what the deal was, but
even then.
Yeah. But even then, that's one thing. Second thing, what if the guy doesn't play, man? Or third thing, what if he's suspended? Fourth thing, what if somebody else on your team gets in his grill that game?
Which someone would have.
Exactly, right? So it's like there's all these things, and sometimes it's nice to have someone lay out some other paths of what could happen with the situation. And I think I'll leave it at this, and I'll throw it back to you, is I think the two things for me that in general people can do to be helpful in those situations is help whoever the person is to make sure that they're prepared for whatever the thing is coming up, whatever the situation is. And then just being reminding them that they can only control what they can control, and being honest about what that means, you know. And the honesty thing, I'm going to peel back that in a bit too, but I'll throw it back to you on that.
Yeah. So you're 100%. Those are two things we will be talking about. But before I go into the thing, is it's so ironic how this happened. Monday morning, he always stops in. One of the people that, I don't want to say the name because people might know, stopped in my office, does it every Monday morning, had questions for me. As a dad, it relates to this so well. Came in, he goes, Andy, can I talk? I said, for sure. He goes, how? And it was like we're solving the world's problems here. I'm not being negative. He's a beauty. I love this guy. Yeah. How do I build my son's confidence? He goes, I'm struggling with it right now. I said, okay, you're obviously talking on the ice. And he goes, yeah, on the ice. He goes, like, not off the ice. I said, okay, great. I said, so I'm going to only assume that he's not the top guy on their team. He goes, right. I said, okay. And you're trying to find things just to keep him pumped up or to make him feel better. He goes, yeah. So as you alluded to, most people go to the positive. And I said this exact story to him. I said, the first thing you don't want to do is come up with bullshit. Because when we did a podcast about this, when a kid comes off the ice, he knows how he played. And if he didn't, like for example, one game in youth hockey, Charlie came off the ice and he had 3 goals. He didn't play a great game. So he came off, and if I was going to be a dad that's talked about hockey a lot and judged him all the time, he would have came off the ice. I would have said, you played a shit game. Or how did I play, Dad? And I would have said, today wasn't your best. But he came off the ice and he was going to the car and he goes, see those 3 goals, Dad? And he was pumped. Well, I'm not going to piss on him.
Right. Yeah.
And then I said, yeah, you got 3 goals, man. That's awesome. Like, high five. And then we got in the car. He goes, how come you don't seem pumped about my goals? I said, no, I'm fired up about your goals. He goes, yeah, but there's something wrong. I said, okay, you got 3 goals, but the rest of your game wasn't your best. I said, you're asking me. I got to be honest with you. Yeah. So he goes, I know. I go, okay, at least you know. So kid comes off the ice. He knows exactly how he played. If he's not confident, you as a dad or a mom or friends or Grammys or whatever, saying you played so good, you worked so hard, they don't want to hear it because it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Right? If you get bullied at school and someone says, well, you're just as good as anyone else, that doesn't help them. You know, I need a strategy. So being positive doesn't help, and nor does the opposite, being negative, saying off you need to be playing better. You know, whatever, saying the things that you should be. So I was saying that to my friend. I said, you have to come up with something that actually makes sense. And what makes sense is you have to give them a strategy. And I said, with the strategy, you're going to give them confidence if you can actually give someone confidence. So I said, being the middle of the pack, or maybe even the end of the lower end of the totem pole, I said, you got to give him basic, foundational, simplicity. So he's a D. I said, so what's something that we could work on? Like, number one is just making crisp passes, like good passes, or just out of your zone. As simple as it comes. Gets the puck, make sure it gets out of zone without icing it. He goes, okay. He goes, yeah, he could do that. And I said, that's something you could work on. Like, that's something to focus on or work on. It could be ass to the middle. It could be whatever. I gave him 3 things. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, try these 3. Do those make sense? He goes, yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense. I said, now we talk to him and just say, you know what? If you do these 3 things, just work on these 3 things. Even one. Doesn't matter. You just do 1 or 3 things well. It's not too much. And then as he starts working on that, he's actually going to get better. But let's just say he doesn't. Now, when he's on the ice, he's got 2, 3 things that he is working on, that he's focused on. And if he does, like, as a parent, as a family, as friends, everybody's watching. And if you communicate that with the people that care, and this boy gets the puck and he he comes around the net and he sees a winger or centerman and he puts it on the tape. That's not nothing.
Right.
That's a success. And that success needs to be celebrated. I know that for some people are going to say, yeah, but you need to score goals. No, goals are not the important thing. They're going to come. Or they're not. Who cares? But there's a success. So he's got 1 success. So if he did it once that game successfully, when he comes off the ice and he, maybe his head's down or he's not sure, or if you bring that up and say, son, the second period, that was, you could tell you've practiced or you're thinking about it. You came across that net and you gave that, Johnny freaking boy a pass right on the tape and you guys got out of your zone. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. That helps that kid.
Yep.
Will he want to do it again? Got recognized for doing something well. And don't minimize it. It's huge. Because
Right.
basically your foundational basic skills are what's going to get you anywhere anyways.
Yep.
So you build on that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that was, anyways, at the end of it, he said to Andy, this is gold. How did you come up with this stuff? I said, it's just experience, man.
Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of being a dad. But you could do this with anything. Anyways, so you focus on 1, 2, 3, 2 different things. And then what happens is you actually believe in yourself. Like if you do this for 5 games in a row and you're making, instead of 1 pass a game, you're making 5, or you're making better decisions. And all of a sudden, you know that you're playing better.
Right.
Not everybody else does, because those are basic things. But now you know. And mom and dad and brother and sister, when they notice these things, if you say, hey, you've done that well,
Mm-hmm.
great. And on the side note, you can still continue to work on your higher end skills, like your stick handling and your shooting and your skating and those things, because everybody wants to be good and you need to be good at that. But you can start with that basic stuff.
Yeah.
You're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I just want to put a pin in this because this is good. This is outside of the specific things she's asking about, like specific situations. This is just be a supportive person 101 right here. Like this is what this is. So as a parent or as somebody who's in could be in more of a mentor role, if you're a coach, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're whatever to a kid, what you're doing is you're giving the kid some direction on how they can measure their success. And that's an important thing an important position to be in, because you can either do something, give them metrics that are positive, or you can give them metrics that are negative and don't really indicate what they're doing. So for the general hockey person, how do you measure whether or not you were successful? Did you get points? Were you on the score sheet? Did you get a lot of ice time? Those are the metrics that people without any real knowledge of the game will say, did you play well or not?
Yeah.
But those aren't useful because, like you said with Charlie, you can get 3 goals and not play a great game. Maybe you're in the right place at the right time 3 times, right?
Exactly.
That says nothing about the rest of your game. How did you play in the greater, because for those 3 moments, maybe you were in the right spot, but the rest of the game, what were you doing?
Yeah.
And what you're doing when you give someone, 3 specific things that they can work on, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be hockey. It could be anything. You're giving them a defined way to judge whether or not they're doing well on a shift by shift basis. So in hockey, you're not going to score every shift, man. You're not going to get a shot every shift. You might not touch the puck some shifts, because that's just how the game goes. Yeah. But if you can say, okay, are you stopping and starting your feet? That's a good thing to know, because every shift you can measure that. Did I do that or not? Yeah. And for a lot of kids, I specifically remember this, and when you laid this out the first time, it rung for me so much, because I didn't have that direction. I didn't have 3 things or specific shift by shift things that I could think of to see if I was doing well. And what you're doing is you're defining what a kid can do, because when you're a kid, you don't know what to do. And when I was in, even in junior, like I was still a kid, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing on the ice.
I know.
Like shift by shift, what are the main things based on how I play hockey that I need to be doing to make sure that I'm playing well, you know? And if I would have had that, that would have been so useful, because then I don't feel so lost. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was lost, but I was lost. I didn't know how to judge whether or not my performance was going well or not outside of getting points.
Yeah.
That was the only metric I had.
And points are such a, like, unless you're a point guy getting paid for it, or it's just such a, it's not the way you want to measure it.
No, it's not useful.
No. So like as a parent and people around you want to pick out things that, and see, if you minimize blocking a shot, let's say, if you minimize, you blocked a shot, it's okay. No, it's huge. Continue to block shots. That means people never get shots on net. If people minimize a skill like having your stick on someone else's puck and just disrupting plays and knocking pucks away. So like for the person that was asking me, that was one of the things I said, is just always have stick on puck when someone's coming on you and knock pucks away. And you keep not say you had 7, but you could say, I think you had close to 10 or more than 10 times that you knocked a puck away from someone. You know how important that is for your team to go the other way?
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with scoring goals.
Exactly.
But what you've done is you helped your team, and you're giving that kid, okay, I'm going to do that even better now, because I want my dad next game to say, no one gets around you anymore because you keep knocking pucks around. Yeah. And I want the guys on my team to notice that. And I'm going to take pride in that. I'm going to know, okay, I'm going to take pride in a small thing that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And now I got knocking pucks away, exit passes, clearing my zone. I'm actually good and effective. No one scores when I'm on the ice. Put me out, coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's actually what happens.
That's the snowball.
That's actually what happens.
That's the snowball.
Don't measure it in goals, because like if someone gets frustrated and the kid that gets paid for goals, or the parents that put the value on scoring, when that kid doesn't know score a goal in 2-3 games and he's on the schneid, you ever hear that one?
Yeah.
He's on the schneid.
Yeah.
He's on the schneid. How do you fix it? Well, what are most parents? Well, shoot pucks. You didn't practice enough. That's where it goes.
Yeah.
So just take it to the net. Just do this. No. There's things that are going to get you your scoring opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you have to do other things to get there. So, if you're getting rewarded by goals, there will be a day where you're going to be very disappointed.
Well, and especially as a defenseman, it's such a great example, because it's like, how do you measure? Because defensemen normally aren't getting all these points. Right?
No, but they can be in on a lot of assists.
Yeah, they can. Sure. But if you, as a defenseman,
yeah,
your primary job is not the points. Like it's the forward's primary job to get the goals. And if you're a D that gets points and sets up plays and gets the second assist on a lot of things, that's fine. But that's clearly should not be the way that you're judging whether or not you played well, right? And because they're not supposed to be getting all the points. So when you spring that over to the forwards, even though they're responsible for most of the goals, does it make sense that you're going to be taking away from, the rest of your play because you can only score goals or whatever, and that's the only metric that you're using to judge whether or not you did well? It doesn't make sense, because there's way more to the game than the few moments where the puck happens to go in the net.
Yeah.
100%. There's way more to the game than that. And for Victoria asking the question too, something she mentioned in her comment was that she rides horses. Right, that's something that she does. I think that's what she said.
She said,
riding. I'm assuming she rides horses. Show riding.
Yeah,
does that mean horses?
Or barrel ride? No. Yeah.
That means horses. She rides horses, right, or something like that.
Cows.
Yeah, maybe it's a cow.
Yeah, no, it's horses. Equestrian, right?
Yeah. So you can apply the same thing to that, 100%. Right? You can pick your 3 things. I know nothing about horse riding. I don't know anything about, but you can. I'm sure that there are game within the game type details that are what make or break whether or not you have a good ride, or whatever the verbiage is that you guys use, right? So it's the same thing with that. Like, you pick certain things that actually snowball into having a good overall performance in whatever it is you're doing, And then the other thing that I wanted to point out on top of this, and you were giving the example with Charlie, how he scores 3 goals and you're not going to piss on him for scoring 3 goals. Like, that's like, he's a little kid, man, right? Yeah. So especially when the kids are young, the tone actually matters when you're delivering your message. Yeah. So my first 2 I have, one is like the don't bullshit. Like, you actually have to be honest about what's going on. And then the second thing is how you're delivering the message, right? The way you're communicating the message is actually important. Because like you said with Charlie, the message you want to leave with them was like, yeah, you got 3 goals, but there was a lot of other things that you could have been better at. What you didn't say was, yeah, you got 3 goals, but you were shit the rest of the game.
No, I didn't say
You know,
that.
and make the kid cry. Like that's
but even a coach,
totally.
even a coach, like this is where you have an effect on players. I don't care what level you're at. I don't care. Like at the NHL level, OHL level, you're not sitting there and going, yeah, you had 3 goals, but you're a shit. You wouldn't say it like that.
Right.
Although that does happen. You could, but you're going to get a different message going across saying, yeah, you got 3 goals tonight, Eric, but listen, you got 3 goals, right place, right time, but I wasn't totally pleased, or I'm pissed off at the way you didn't battle. Like there's a lot of areas of your game that I want to fix with you.
Yeah.
That I'm not happy about.
Right.
That's a better message.
It's a better message. And that's what's important. So when your mom, dad, coach, sister, whoever it is that is being the supportive person, the way you're saying things actually matters. And it can be the other way too, where you're way too positive about something that's not.
Way too positive sucks.
Yeah.
Use an example. Just being honest. Might as well.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah. Well, just being honest. I'm just thinking of times where the positivity sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. My wife's the nicest person in the world.
Yeah.
And your mom.
Yeah.
They're tied. So I've come home on days like through business frustrated. So many different things. Or I've come home not too long ago, actually not too long ago, and I said, I actually feel like a loser right now. She goes, what do you mean? I go, I'm not like, and there was the COVID. I don't know if it was before COVID, after COVID, but it was that. There's all these things coming on, and I said, I just feel like a loser. Like I don't feel like I'm progressing in life right now. Oh no. And she was like Mrs. Positive, and I was like, I want to punch you in the face right now.
Yeah,
it's not true. You're making me feel good, and I don't like making I understand the concept, but you're just trying to make me feel good, and everything's okay. But I know because I'm not a freaking idiot, and I can see my life, and I actually assess my life that I'm not doing well right now, according to my standards.
Right.
Maybe to everyone else's standards, I'm the best.
Yeah.
But the way I'm going right now, I'm not happy, and I'd rather you just say, well, what about it? And then is it this, and identify things, or just leave me alone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I don't need positive.
Yeah,
I know how to be positive and say, "Ooh, it's a beautiful day." Yeah, it could always be worse, but it's also like sometimes it's rainy and it's shitty outside, and it's just rainy and shitty outside. It doesn't have to be a goddamn positive to it.
Right.
It is. It sucks.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and kids read it. They understand when you're just being positive, because there's no substance to being the positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I like to say that I wonder now. It's an actual thing. I wonder is that I don't know if I'm positive enough. This is a side note. I don't even know. I think sometimes I'm actually negative, but I think there's an actual reason for it. I don't mind.
Okay, but this There's a line to draw where it's like, because you definitely have like your negative moments. Everyone does, but it's in situations where like things are appropriately negative. Like it's negative and you're like, okay, this is negative. So what you could do, it doesn't mean you have to like pretend that it's positive.
That's what people do.
Right? You don't have to pretend that it's positive, but you don't have to go so deep into the negative that it actually affects your behavior in other things throughout your day. Right? So you can identify that things are negative, but it's like what you're pointing out with me, the patience thing that I have. And patience is one way of wording it, but the other way, because the way I think about it with myself is I just stay pretty neutiral about whatever's going on.
You stay, which is we're going to talk about in the moment.
Yeah, right. So exactly. That's
for everything.
And that's what I try. I honestly make a conscious effort to try to do that. It's like, okay, somebody cuts me off when I'm driving my car. Okay, how much does this actually affect my life? Am I going to be mad? And I'll feel the impulse rush of like right away, and then I'll sit there. And a lot of times things will happen when my Christine's in the car, and she'll see me get like and then I'll just be like, wow, that was mildly irritating. Like that's what I'll say, like something like that. Yeah. That just like takes the edge off. Where it's like I'm not being like pretend positive about it, but does it need to be so negative? So there is a balance to be drawn there. But back to the main point, and I find men normally, like dads, will default more to like the too negative, too harsh, and then the moms default to the more That's just the nature of men versus women. Yeah. And neither thing are good. Yeah. You need to appropriately address whatever. So what I was saying with Charlie, gets his 3 goals. Okay, good. Yeah, that's a positive thing. Like, you got 3 goals. Like,
100%.
that's worth noting. Great. We're not going to ignore that and act like that didn't happen. But in the other areas of your game, like, was that the best you could do today? But, and like, that is the way that you deliver message, which that's not a positive or negative message. That's just like a neutral
That's right.
message.
Yeah.
Ask a question,
Yeah.
To make them think about what did they actually do.
Yeah.
And that's more an appropriate way to generally be supportive of a person that's in a situation where maybe they don't know how to judge whether or not they're doing well, or maybe they feel like they're in a slump, or maybe they are super, super high because they have, like, the one kid that we have here, he's got like 9 goals in 6 games or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculously hot start. Yeah. So if I'm mom and dad in that situation, that's great. Awesome. But let's keep it in check, because the day's going to come where you don't score a goal. You're not scoring a goal every game this year, right? That doesn't happen, So, right. Or very, very, very unlikely, right?
Most likely.
So when the day comes that he doesn't score a goal, now he's got 9 goals in 7 games. It's like, does he need to take a big dive off a cliff now because he didn't score a goal in 1 game? No. Yeah. So it's like, you got to be able to buffer both ways, right? You're pulling back from too positive and you're pulling back from too negative to keep it around that neutral, and just make sure that the kids actually have a way to think about what they're doing, to measure something meaningful, not just like, nothing metrics like scoring or whatever,
Yeah, the glass is not half full and it's not half empty. It's just half a glass of water.
There's just half a glass.
That's all it is. It's very neutral. It doesn't have to be positive or negative. It's freaking half a glass.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't get screwed, or it's half a glass of water or whatever. Maybe it's not water.
Yeah, maybe it's something else.
So this is the thing, is just to go back to what Victoria said, all those stresses. Okay, so we'll keep it at that. There are all these stresses and pressure moments. So what it is what you can do as a family and friends to help the player, and the player to help himself together. What you always want to focus on is it's mental toughness 101, man. It's control what you can control. That's it. That's all. You can't get too far ahead of yourself, and that's what I was talking about when I was going to Russia and when I was in that second fight that I had, and building the business, or going to train someone, or Charlie's coming in town tomorrow night, right? Playing against the Spitfires for the first time. So you can make that the big game now. Coming home. I know there's hundreds of people coming to watch. They're going to fill a section for sure. So if he starts going, okay, I'm going back home, all these people are going to be watching, and he makes this a bigger game, what you're doing is you're making the game bigger than what it is, right? So you can't control who's going to come. You can't control people watching, like what they're going to say, what you're going to do. All you can do is go play. I actually told him that this morning. I said, you excited to play? He goes, yep. And I said, don't make it bigger than it is. No, I know. I said, just if you're playing in Windsor, you're going to do it 25 times in the next few years. I said, it's not a big deal. He goes, no, I know. I said, please just for your own head, just go play. It's the same rink, bud. He goes, yeah, I know. Anyways, you can't get too far ahead, because when you go too far ahead, all you do is create stress. And if you don't create stress, what you're doing is like, okay, there's a fine line here now. You have to think ahead in a good way. That's what you call a visualization, right? If you can picture, okay, I'm going to play in Windsor tomorrow. I'm going into that fight, or I'm going into Russia, and that's what I did. I pictured all the good things I was going to do. I see myself succeeding. Those are good things. That's what you call visualization. But if you create the problems, like the stressful ones, I hope I play well. I hope this, all those things, that's the stress that you don't need in your life.
Let me stick that for a sec. So I want to draw like the difference between the two. So then as the person that is supporting, because we're talking more like as we're the player, but the point as you're the support person is you're kind of reminding them to do these things. That's the idea, right?
100%.
You're playing, just remind them, hey, like, just think about where you're going to be. Think about where you're going to be sitting. Think about what the day is going to be like and all that. And the reason that's useful, the visualization thing, is because it helps you to prepare.
Yeah.
It helps to remove some of that unknown, right, that you're talking about. Yeah. And when we had Dr. Krista on, she was talking about that. Yeah. And that's what she's saying. The reason that that's helpful is because it helps to remove some of those unknowns, which actually helps to de-stress, which is helpful. So if you're mom and dad and some kid has like something coming up, you can like have them walk you through what the day is going to be like. Have them walk you through what the game is going to be like. What are you seeing? How do you think the game's going to go? And that can help to calm them down, as opposed to I hope I play well. Oh my God, everyone's going to be there, but that's not useful, right? That's useless thinking ahead, right? That's what the difference is. The difference between visualizing as a way to prepare versus projecting into the future things that you can't control.
That's right.
Right. And so that's where we're drawing the line. And as the support person, you can do that for whoever the kid is, the player, the athlete, you know, walk them down the path of visualizing to prepare and remove some of the unknowns versus, you know, oh, like grandma and grandpa are going to be there. We're getting a suite or whatever the situation is. This is the big game. Like make sure you're ready. Make sure you get to bed on time because that game is really important. That kind of stuff.
Championship game.
Yeah. Not helpful, right? Not helpful.
You need to get out of your routine.
Yeah. So I just want to draw that.
Yeah, no, that's good because like, I'll just finish this. So it creates all kinds of stress. You can't live in the past either.
Yeah.
So this is part, like I'm going to go back to this. You can't live in the past either because when you live in the past, you know, everyone, think about this. How many guys went fishing? It's the oldest joke in the world, eh? Caught a fish this big. Next time you tell them, yeah, I caught a 38-pound fish. It was this big. It was in the past. You were always the best.
Yeah.
Talk to guys that played hockey. You talk to these guys, man.
Yeah.
That I played against, or they played like junior, whatever. I mean, if I played in the OHL, who cares?
Yeah.
If I tell the story, if I get full of myself and I want to be cool, that story, you should have seen me.
Yeah.
Everyone's better.
Yeah.
When they talk about their past, they were so much better. They had it so much worse. It's the truth. Yeah. But when you look at it that way and you tell yourself how great you were in the past, like what a lot of people do, like we said in the last podcast, they live in the past. If you get out of the past, you ain't moving forward, man. Right? Just don't look in the rearview mirror. You only look at that as your successes. Like one of the things we talked about before too is like on the wall. Look at your success wall. What are the things that you have accomplished to remind you that, yeah, you're good, you're worthy, you're awesome, you can do things in life. Look at what you've accomplished that no one else has ever done.
Yeah.
This is freaking amazing. Go do it again. Mm-hmm. But to sit in the past and say, I wish I was, I did, you know, all those things, it puts you in the quicksand. You can't move.
Yeah. I want to stick that again too. So
you got to be in the moment.
Well, the past thing. So the past thing is interesting too. I heard, I was listening to motivational speaker guy, Les Brown. Les Brown. So
he's awesome.
Yeah. I don't actually listen to a lot of his stuff, but this is awesome. One of he gets you fired up though. Oh. Right. You got to be hungry. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, right. He's
awesome.
So he was talking about this exact thing. So when people, I'll relate it back in a second, so just bear with me. But when people try to like change habits or like implement new lifestyle choices or whatever, a lot of times people will say, well, like, you don't do that. Like, that's not something you do. Like, you're not that kind of person. Or like,
100%.
And because they're holding you to what you were in the past kind of thing, right?
100%.
And I found this with my own family. A lot of times when I would try to change certain habits, or I used to be, it's so funny because they're talking about how like I have patience and whatever. And man, when I was a teenager, like borderline anger management classes were needed, right? So it's not like I was always this like patient, and wouldn't even describe myself as incredibly patient, but like you're saying, I can handle things well without getting too high, too low, whatever.
Yeah.
But I wasn't always like that. And when I started to change, I was still always, especially by my siblings, because they're the ones closest to me. So they see the highs and lows, man. They see the good and the bad. And they used to hold me to that hothead status. So when we would talk about things, I would always say like, I don't feel like I'm that hot-headed. Like, I don't think, and they'd be like, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. And like go off about, because I was always super hot-headed. Like I was, but I'm not anymore. Mm-hmm. You know? And so for me, I was getting away from that. I was letting that part of me go, where I'm not that guy that just snaps now for no reason. Like I'm getting rid of that, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, remember 4 or 5 years ago, one of my best friends came in town, met him at the arena, and he's projecting like, you're successful. And I said, yeah, thanks, man. Like I'm doing okay. I love my life. And then he looks at me and he goes, you were nuts. You were supposed to be successful, like, because my broken home. He's the guy that I used to go to his mom's house, and she used to cook for me and smoke a cigarette and watch it. Go, you like it?
Oh yeah.
And but he's looking at that, and I'm like, yeah, but I was such a mess. You're projecting my past as a 16 to 20-year-old kid who didn't have a clue, didn't have a pot to piss in, that was so confused, that used humor to get through things because I had to figure out how to get through life.
Yep.
And you're judging me on that, like you said with your outbreaks. You're not that person anymore. Yeah. I've taken my life and I've made it better through, like, I can have this conversation because I lived it and I've done it. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And he just couldn't wrap his head. He goes, he wanted me to be the idiot or not the idiot, but the guy that I was that just didn't.
That's what he's holding you to.
He's holding me to,
that.
and I was like, no,
Yeah.
I've grown, man. I've read a book or two,
Yeah.
or 100, 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, I've grown as a human being, and you don't have to. So yeah, when you make your changes to become a better person or to start a business, people are the first ones that there's all these things to remind you that no, you can't do that,
Yeah.
because look where you failed here, and you're dumb, and your parents split up, and you remember this and you remember that time. So that's why the past, when you look at the past, you want to have things to remind you that you can have some success, but you don't live there.
Yep.
Even if you had the best past ever, you'd be stuck there. That's why guys talk about the good old days, glory days,
Well,
Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Well, and the point of me bringing that up is, you know what else? It was another side note. Before I was a hothead, people used to always call me soft, which is why I became the hothead. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So I remember when I was like in
Yeah.
grade school coming up, I was the guy where he's just a nice, happy kid.
Yeah.
And it would drive me nuts.
I'm not happy.
I'm not happy. You're happy.
Like, lick your head off.
Yeah, right? And
Yeah.
so I remember that's one of the reasons why I started boxing when I was in grade 7.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was a hothead, and now I'm a hothead. And everyone thinks and now I can't get rid of the hothead thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But anyways, the point of me on a smaller scale now, so if you're stuck on like your past performance, or maybe you had a bad year, or maybe you had a bad week or a bad month or whatever, or you're in a slump and you're stuck on like, man, like I haven't scored in like 8 games, or I haven't scored in 2 months, or I haven't played well, or I haven't whatever. I'm not getting any. Like the next game's a new game though. It has no relationship to your past games.
Can change it on a dime.
And that's another thing as a support person. Like that's the other thing that it's that reminding. Just like, listen, man. Like the game tomorrow has nothing to do with the games that you already played. Like those games are done. They don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So that should not have an effect now on the game you're playing today.
That's right.
And that's one of the things that you can get caught up in when you're a player. You forget, you think that, oh man, for whatever reason, or like I never get to play penalty kill. I'm never going to be a penalty killer. So like, I'm just going to sit and be pissed off on the bench because I never get to kill a penalty, as opposed to saying, okay, well, like, what do you have to do to be a penalty killer though?
Yes.
Like, are you doing those things?
Yes.
And that's where the support role comes in,
Yes.
because a lot of times, especially when we're talking about young athletes, they don't have the know-how, like they don't have the knowledge of how to think like that yet. And you're trying to get them to think,
Yeah,
right?
And they don't, and then and again, like it goes back to what you said earlier, is that your tone as an adult or a friend, your tone will play a role in that. So can I just go back to one thing? So what we said here is basically as helping together, helping someone get through things, is you control what you can control. Right? So your tone on this thing is like, what are you doing about it? Like if someone's like, I haven't scored in a few games, if your tone is, well, what are you doing about it? Yeah. Control what you control. You can do something about it. If that tone doesn't really go across very well, doesn't feel very freaking helpful.
Yeah.
Seems like you're judging me. Right? But so go back to it. Her questions were like, stress, a loss of a game. So let's just say loss of a game. What can you control about? Right? If I look too far ahead, if I'm thinking about we're losing games and that's in my mind, then you're probably going to lose again, right? You can't control that anymore. But what can you do? What can you control? You control how you can play and how you can affect your team. Getting drafted or getting a NCAA scholarship, being traded. You can't control it. All you can control is what you can do. So if I'm sitting and I'm ending on this, so you're in the moment at the time. Control what you can control. We're losing games, or I'm not scoring goals. Okay, how can I control this? Right? Out of my control is I'm not scoring, but I can do something about it now. I can work on my shot. I can analyze my game right now. Say, okay, watching video. I can control that. I can watch video of my game and say, okay, there's maybe a spot where I could have been on a puck harder. Oh, there's a place where I could have maybe shifted over. You know what? My body language sucks right now. I'm out there just waiting for a pass, but I'm not beaver tapping and calling for it and letting guys know, okay, there's 3-4 things that I could do to get the puck on my stick a little bit more.
Yep.
Well, I haven't finished a hit. These are things I can get better. I can control those things, and if I control those things and improve on them, then all these other things have a chance of going away.
Right.
That's all you can do.
Yep.
So you have to live so control what you can control. And as you said, you live in the moment. It's the most important thing that I've come across in years. I read that book, The Power of Now, and it's like I felt like I was a monk or something.
Yeah.
I felt weird reading it. I felt like Zen.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there going, it's just so freaking
amazing,
true.
Man. Yeah, it's amazing.
when you live in the moment, you can actually do something about it, and really nothing else matters.
Yeah.
So when you get stuck in, hope I get drafted. Well, the draft is 6 months away. If this is how you're going to be for 6 months, you might as well just, put a rope around your neck. It's a long 6 months. Focus on what you can do now. Live in the moment. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy. It's a workout time, so enjoy it. Don't think about, working out, thinking about the game. Think about working out for the game, but like, do the workout. We're speaking together. Let's speak.
Yeah.
Enjoy this. Live in the moment. Nothing else can bother you. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Live in the moment.
Yep.
So as a hockey player and as parents, that's what you want to do is like, okay, so you're my kid, you're someone I'm trying to help, and you're having a hard time with Eric. So what is it? We lost games, whatever. Okay, hey dude, what can you do about it? Like, let's think about this. Okay, what can you control about that? Let's control those. And you know what? Like, focus on what you can do right now. Best advice you can give to someone.
Yeah.
Everything else is bullshit.
Yeah, and you don't have to say live in the moment, because kids don't really know what that means, but you do. Yeah, it's phrasing it the way you just or you were phrasing it.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to touch on too is we've been talking a lot about like shorter time frames, and the be in the moment thing is important. And actually, one of the sayings I think I've told this story before, but when we went to Boston to play preseason. I don't know if he was I forget who it was. It was the strength coach for the Bruins or whoever. He was giving us a tour of the place and whatever. And one of his things, because we were asking him questions at the end, and he was talking about the be in the moment thing. And the way that he phrased it, and now I actually have a picture. Christine actually got it for me. She got a framed picture. I keep it in my room. And when I wake up, it's like the first thing that I see when I wake up. It says, be where your feet are.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that's just a good way to phrase it. Wherever you're at right now, wherever your feet are, be there. Don't be somewhere else. Don't be thinking off in la la land, whichever way you're thinking about it, right? Be where you're at. But the other thing I wanted to touch on, unless this interrupts your flow, because then we can do what you want to do. But I was going to say, if we're stretching out, you just mentioned the draft, like the draft this year coming up in 6 months, whatever. So if we stretch that out maybe to like longer time frames, talking about how to be helpful over a longer period of time. So I know one of the things that Victoria was saying is a kid that wants to get a scholarship, or if somebody wants to get drafted or whatever, how to be helpful if it's a longer time frame. So it's not, week to week, one game to the next game, but maybe we have a 6 month time frame that we're thinking of. So this is where I would start to shift more. You talk about control the controllables, be in the moment, all that stuff. This is where the conversation kind of would shift for me to like being prepared. Like, how do we prepare for this? So that our thinking about it is actually constructive. So I don't know if you have want to throw any thoughts on that prepared piece, or like what you can do.
Like I was going to say it in a little bit, or maybe I missed it even. But
well, we can get to it later if you want to go.
No, it's good. Let's talk about it right now.
Okay, sure.
So when I went to Russia to go train the best Russians in Russia, they don't know me. I don't know them. I don't speak their language. Where was the pressure? What saved my ass? I was prepared. Like, there's not, you could throw 20 guys on the ice right now. You could throw 2. You could throw an NHL. You could throw a 6-year-old. I'm prepared. I know exactly what I'm going to do. So being prepared puts you in a state where, you can have a little bit of pressure, but you go back to your preparation, and it's coming up in my talk here. If you're prepared, then there's nothing really going to get you, right?
Yep.
So the more prepared you are, to a degree, the easier it is, right? When went to Detroit to work with those NHLers, whatever. I had one day there was 1 week I had 54 pro guys on the ice with me. 54 big 6'6", 6'7", 6'4". I don't know if you remember this. It was humongous.
I remember.
If I'm not prepared for that, if I haven't seen everything, if I haven't analyzed my business well enough, that could have ended it for me.
Yeah.
54. I don't know what to do, guys. And get upset and freak out. So what I did is 54. Okay, so it's not the skills session that I thought it was going to be, because it's not possible. There'll be 0 ice left in about 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Breathe. Okay. We got 54 guys. We got 18 D.
Yeah.
Okay, there's going to have to be a 2-on-2, 3-on-3, hard ass up and down the ice, and do those drills and have to fly by, because 54 guys have been standing around for a long time. How did it go? Fantastic.
Yep.
Throw you off? Well, for about 2 minutes, but I'm ready. In hockey, that's, I think what you're saying too, is you do your daily habits, you do the work, you do whatever it is you have to do, control what you can control, so that if you do get drafted to the National Hockey League or you get drafted to the Windsor Spitfires, you're not going there all freaked out. You know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into the big game, right? You go into that championship game, your training camp the first time. It's not like you change anything.
Yeah.
Your preparation's the same. You know, it's another huge thing is that you don't change your routines that much. You do what you do. And when you do it often enough and you've practiced and you put the work in and you understand, if I get a puck here, I can snap the puck off. I finish my checks. You do that every day. What changes? Nothing.
Right.
The arena's different. So what?
Yeah.
The stakes are higher. It doesn't matter. It's just you do what you do. You're prepared.
Yeah.
Preparation is will give you your success.
Yeah. So more concretely is, again, in that supporting role, it's again, you're making sure that whoever the person is that you're dealing with has these things in line. So when it comes to something off in the future coming up,
yeah,
it's not staying on them in the sense that you're, being an asshole about it, but just like, hey, like, are you making sure that your eating habits are good? Are you making sure that you're getting to bed on time? Are you making sure that, are you doing the things that you need to practice? Are you working on the deficiencies that you have? Are you prepared for the fact that maybe you won't get the thing that you want?
Yep.
What are you going to do if that happens?
Yep.
And it's playing that mental game of like making them ask questions to make sure they're ready for the array of possibilities. And they might not be ready, but at least they'll have thought of them, so they're not getting blindsided by whatever the result ends up being, right? Like if you're really, really hoping to get drafted to the OHL this year, and like the reality is you might not. And for most kids, you're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to deal with that? If your whole life and as mom and dad, you're all banking on the draft, well, if your kid doesn't get drafted, he's going to be devastated. Is that going to ruin his life? You're going to let that ruin his life? And I played with kids where that happened.
I know.
Kids didn't get drafted, and it was like they fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I never talk to them again, never saw them again. They stopped playing. I don't know what happened. Yeah. And that it doesn't need to be like that. That's so unnecessary.
100%.
Because it's just one moment in time, one moment of the many moments. So, in leading up to a big event like that or a big thing that's coming up, try to prepare them for both situations, and then make sure that they're ready with the proper skills and the proper routines and the proper whatever else, so that when the time comes, it doesn't change anything. Nothing changes. You just go out there and play, and you can fall back on your very solid skills, routines, whatever, to get you through that situation or whatever that is, right? Yeah. So that's what I got.
Yeah, no, it's great. So things that you can control on an everyday basis is your body language, your posture, how you present yourself. If you sit like this, if you walk around dopey, if you're on the ice and your shoulders are slouched, you immediately go to that mindset. If you act big, think big, shoulders back, act like you're something, not cocky, but I'm here, I'm present, I'm here. It changes immediately. You can't not. So no matter what you're doing, if you walk in a room, you walk like this and sit like this, you're going to be small. You're going to be treated small. People will treat you directly the way you're acting. If you're like this, sitting there and you have some posture and some like a spine,
a little bit of jam,
and a little bit of jam to you, it shows a little bit of attitude. You gain respect right away. But more importantly, it's for you. You'll feel like better. You're alive. Yep. Next thing is what are you choosing to see? What are you choosing to see in your own mind, right? You have a TV in your head. Whatever you're seeing about yourself, about life, about the hockey game, about your future is up to you to watch. It's like a TV, right? If you don't like what you're watching, change the channel. Change the damn channel. I don't like, if you're seeing yourself in anxiety and fear, well, change the channel. Look at yourself as successful and winning face-offs and battling and stuff like that. So you can do that at any point. Then you do it at home, right? You watch TV, you don't like it. You don't sit there and go, I got to watch Bonanza. I don't even want to watch Bonanza. It sucks. Like, think about that. I know this sounds actually funny, but you don't sit there and say, I don't want to watch Bonanza. It sucks. Yeah. But you continue watching. And he said, I hate Bonanza. Like, Bonanza bores me. I don't even like Western movies. And you start complaining. That's what people do in life.
Yep.
They complain. All of the simple answer is, and you don't have to even get up anymore and change the channel. You go to your clicker and you go, okay, I want to watch this. Now I feel better.
Yep.
And that's your own brain. That's what you put in your brain is what you're going to get out. Your self-talk is the exact same way. If you're sitting there going, just having a hard time. I don't know. I'm having a hard time in the corners. I just can't score. I just don't feel like myself lately. Those words become reality. I know this sounds guru-ish, but those words actually do become reality. Yep. You have to, one of the things I used to tell a lot of the players is like, instead of saying shit, or, you know, if they miss a goal, they don't play well, it's not you screwed up. The words I tell them to use is get it back. When you do something well, I got it. When you do something not so well, you say, I'll get it back. They're both positive. They're both getting you in a mind state that I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You start beating yourself up, you will act on that period. That's for sure. Preparation. That was my next point on that. It just gives you more confidence. The more you're prepared, the more you know that you've done this. You've been here before. You've I've worked on, like Charlie the other day worked on taking rims, and he did different exits on rims for he said about an hour and 20 minutes with one of his skills coaches. Coach helped him with a few things, and because at the OHL level, it's a whole lot different getting the pucks out when you got the big guy coming down on you, right, from the Kitchener Rangers. Pinching on you, and another guy coming off. It's a different time and space. So we spent an hour and 15 minutes. Coach came in after the last game, 2 games ago. And because coach came out and he was still working on his stuff, just him and the one coach, hour and a half, hour and 15. Same thing, rims, every way you can do it. Coach came in between periods, complimented him in front of his team. He said, this is a guy that just spent an hour and a half working on that stuff. He got it out of his own head perfectly 3 times. Which is huge.
Yeah.
When you're playing guys 5 years older. Preparation, man. He prepared. Doing it for years, but he said, I need to get better at this. Yeah. Now he gives him a fighting chance to get regular ice time.
Yeah, you don't hope.
Don't hope. It's not going to happen.
No.
Prepare.
Yeah.
Right? And then past successes we talk about. Look at your success wall. Those are things that you can control. Any day of the week, anytime.
Yeah, and that's the role. You just played the role of these are the things that you're putting in the person's head, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the stuff you're saying to them. This is the stuff you're reminding them of, and that's the way that you reinforce that they're going around on the right track, right? Yep. So when they start to get squirrely or whatever, you're always bringing them back to these points. Always bring back to these points. Always bring back to these points, because they're gonna get off track, man. Like it's going to happen. Does. Basically what you're getting at is you are reminding the person to fall back on their skills, their ability, their whatever, right? Yeah. But they have to have that to begin with. So I find, like with kids especially, sometimes they don't have those things ready yet. So like one thing that I always hear parents saying is like, well, just play your game.
Yeah, they don't know what their game is.
Right? Just play your game.
Coaches don't coach.
Yeah. It's like, that's not a helpful thing to say. So if it's someone that is a high-level junior player and already has their identity, has their role developed, then that's something that means something. Play your game. It's like, you know what you have to do. You know your 3 things. Go and do those things. That's what play your game means. But if you tell your 11, 12, 15-year-old, like, play your game, or like fall back on your skill, your preparedness, your all these things, they don't have that a lot of times.
Okay. So then we go back to 3 things. Create 3 freaking things.
Right, and that's all I want to highlight that on purpose, because I don't want people to go away from this thinking that it's okay as the support person to just say, well, just play your game, bud. Just do what you know how to do. They don't know what to do.
No. So as a support person, 100%.
So don't forget that part is what I'm saying, right?
100%.
So that's all I want to
highlight. Again, foundations again, right? As parents, as coaches and stuff like that, is like, you can't coach someone if you don't even know, they don't even know what their strengths or their weaknesses are.
Yeah. Because then it's not useful information.
Right. And if we can just liken this to building a house, you don't build a house until there is a foundation. So you have to, as someone helping, a parent, a coach, or whatever, for a youth hockey player or youth anything, youth salesman, doesn't matter. You have to build foundations, right? And what are your foundations? Well, you have to be able to skate. You have to be able to handle a puck a bit and shoot. Okay, so those are the skill pieces and pass. But now within the game for that person, how do I become a good player? Well, we have to fight. There's a million different players, so I can't give any answers.
Yeah.
But working hard, that's too general. So what is it? Stick hand. I don't know. Whatever the things are, you have to find 3 things that are not outcome based, meaning scoring goals.
Yeah. It's always process based.
Based. Yeah. So like I said with the feller that was in here the other day, number 1, stick on puck. Always stick on puck, make good exit plays, and ass to the middle when you're pivoting. That's what I said, those 3. Mm-hmm. Ass to the middle, you're pivoting. He goes, oh, why is that? I said, because if your ass is out, you expose the middle. So he's always in a good defensive position. Reward him for that. Talk about it. So now the kid's depressed. No, hey, son, you've done this, or this. You're doing well. You're doing good. Yeah. You could be better at that one. You're not really focusing on that. Did you forget it? Yeah, I keep forgetting. I know it's hard to remember, right? When you go off the ice, always get your butt to the middle. I know, it's hard. You'll get it. Once you get it, you can do it all the time. It'll be a
Yeah.
habit. So that's the basic. That's the point of that.
Right. And now that they have that, now what you're saying about the pressure stuff is useful. Now it's like, okay, but hey, we talked about your 3 things.
Yeah.
Go do your 3 things, man.
Yeah.
That's how you play.
That's how you
play
play.
your game. Now
Everything
that
else,
works.
Everything else is a bonus.
Exactly. Now that actually works. So I
100%.
just want to make sure I stick that because,
Yeah.
especially for people that don't know the game, like
Yeah.
it's not good advice to just say play your game when your kid doesn't have a foundation yet.
No,
Like you have to
it
help
is.
them get the foundation first, and then when they're older, like I said, then it's a different story. But I just want to highlight that. Sorry to interrupt.
For sure. Like this is things that you can remind your kids is what do you think about, like what are your routines? Parents and family can help that. What are your routines? What do we do? You know, for Charlie, our routine in the week when he was a kid, and I'm talking about Charlie because he's my kid.
Yep.
He during the week I'd prepare him all week for life, but hockey was part of it. And it would start after his game on Sunday, and I'm like, you know, did you have fun? Yeah. Great. What'd you like about it? Tell me about how awesome hockey is. Great. Monday, I'd be like, oh, you got practice coming up. You excited about practice? Yeah, I can't wait to get on this. Oh, awesome. Work hard. What are you working on this week? What are you working on?
Yep.
I'm going to work on moving my feet when I shoot. Good. I'm going to be shooting for the right pad to get rebounds. Good. Did you focus on it? Yeah, oh, that's good, man. Good. Next practice. You all excited for the game coming up? And we just talk about that. And his eating would be basically the same. His bedtime routine would be the same. So nothing was really throwing him off. We do the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
So when kids, you know, that's one of the things parents could do is they could just say, like, what, help them get in routines. It's real simple. And then just understand there's no such thing as a big game. They're all big.
Yeah.
They're all big. They're all small. They're just a game. That's all it is. So it's a cup again, right?
Yep.
It's just a glass of water, not a half glass or a
Yeah. That takes a level too. As the support person, it takes a level of self-awareness on your part because talking about routines, like if you don't have good routines, like this is the other thing too, right? Is like being the example at the same time, right? Because advice goes, people take you more seriously. Your advice means more. Yeah. And people actually listen if you do the things you say also.
Yeah.
Right. And at the start, you know, like we were talking about how kids, they're not dumb, man. Kids aren't dumb. They're actually smart. They're just inexperienced and they pay attention to what you do. And, you know, it's easy if you're mom or dad and you're saying, hey, you should do this, but then they look and they're like, well, you don't do it. Yep. You're devaluing the advice you're giving because you're not you don't do what you're saying. So why am I going to listen to you? You know, but if you're someone who does the things that you're saying, then the advice that you give is going to be taken a lot more seriously, you know? And so that's an important thing to remember too, if you're the support person. And that's why most parents will just default to the over positivity. They don't have anything really helpful to give, but they also don't do any of the things that they would give, like in terms of advice they would give. They don't do any of those things anyways.
I know.
So it's like, those are the other two pieces, like as a side note, like you got to try to also be the example that you're trying to give. Like if you're someone who thinks you're going to give advice and you want your kid to listen to you, then you, or your players, if you're the coach, you want your players to listen to you. Like you also have to kind of be doing the dance too, right? You can't just bark orders, do as I say, not as I do, right? That doesn't go a very long way. And that was always something that I always noticed right away. And it would make me lose respect for coaches, lose respect for dads, lose respect for parents, lose respect for teachers right away. If like they're telling me to do something and they don't do it, right away I'm like, why? You don't do it. How do I know if it works or not? And two is like, you don't do it. Why am I going to listen to you anyways? You know?
Yeah.
So
you're just yapping.
Exactly. So just as a side note too, like just you got to try to make sure that you're in some way doing, you know, practicing what you preach, I guess.
One thing that I just thought about though that I think is critically important as someone, not the athlete himself, but the support system, the family, the aunts, the uncles that care, that are somewhat involved, is, and this is weird because as a dad, it can be tough. You see your kid's good at something, or might be good at something, and then you get more fired up than them. Bad idea.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Bad, because like now that my son is gone, and I've never wanted it more than him, just to be clear. I've supported him, and that's why I think he has some success in a level head. But now that he's gone, I have no control what time he goes to bed. All I know is I've shown him values. I've done it, like you said. I was an example for him, and without preaching, we just did things together. He went to bed early, got up early, worked out, had a desire to be a hockey player. And I see most of the things that we've worked on, We threw mud on the wall for years, not pushing, just the mud's on the wall. Did the workouts, all the mental tough, all kinds of stuff. He stays after practice. I'm like, okay, these are good. I'm not telling him.
Yep.
Because there's a point where, especially when they move out of your house and they have freedom, like he's basically freedom now. He can do whatever the hell he wants for the most part. But what I'm so proud of him is that the foundation of going to bed at a decent time is still there. He can be distracted real easily, bud. He stays after practice. He's asked good questions. I hear nothing but like good reports from his teachers, from players. Like everything's on the. I'm not saying perfect, but the habits that we helped him with,
the indications are positive.
Yeah.
So far.
So and the beautiful thing is, it's so funny. I told you the other week. I sent him a note saying, I just feel like I'm not possibly the best dad that I possibly can be, and you let me know what you need from me and stuff. And we talked a couple days ago because he had a frustrating day, couple days, and we talked, and he was ready to talk, ready to speak, and we just went back. You know what we went back to? Oh, we always go back to exactly what we talked about today. Don't think too far ahead. Be in the moment. Just keep working hard, plugging forward, working towards your goal, and all the stuff that goes with what we just said.
Yep.
And it's like a broken record, but it's true. It's just so true because there's no other solution, man. There isn't.
Yep.
There's no other solution.
Yeah,
so
that's good. Did you have any other main points?
No, I'm done. Like enough's enough. Yeah. You go. I've talked a lot. I spoke a lot today.
The last thing I wanted to lay out to, and I think this is so important because I remember dealing with this when I was a kid too, is sometimes as the support person, there's actually nothing you can do to be helpful.
Yeah.
So like, for example, sometimes your kid doesn't want to talk. Like as you and one of the other kids, you were talking to his dad the other day, saying his kid doesn't want to talk to him. It's like, yeah, sometimes kids don't want to talk, man. Sometimes your teenage boys, they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So what happens in that case? They don't want your advice. They don't want you to preach to them. They don't want you to try to solve their problems. They don't want any of that. And so the best thing that you can do in that situation, and this is something that I use a lot in my own life too, and I didn't make it up or anything, but is make sure you're not making it worse.
Yep.
Sometimes the best you can do is not make the situation worse.
That was the essence of my text to him.
Right.
The other day, because I felt like, so for moms and dads, and we love our kids. Hope you do. If you don't, whatever. Like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I love my kid, and I've spent so much time with him, and so he's away. And like you, as you can attest to, we kind of woke up together, like especially in the COVID. But aside from that, he after school he'd come to PowerTech, and he'd work out, and we were buds. Drive home. So he's gone now. So for me, I just want to know that, because my conversation on a daily basis before was, hey man, you worked hard today. Then we'd speak for 20 minutes here and 15 here and joke around. I don't get it anymore. So I felt absolutely useless. And then, so my point of that is that I felt like, okay, I got 10 minutes to speak to him. Yeah. I need,
unload.
Yeah. How's hockey? Are you working hard? You doing this? You're doing this? You're doing this? And he was like, yeah. And he was good about it. Like, no problem. But I got that thing inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
I know there's a point where, am I being a pain in the eye? Am I overcoaching? Yeah. I'm not his coach, but I mean, as a coach, are you overcoaching? As a parent, are you overdoing it?
Yes.
You need some space. Like, and that's, it's like, that's why I told him, I said, you let me know what you need. I'm going to throw some shit out there, but you let me know, because the last thing I want to do is like the phone rings and it's like, Dad, here we go.
You're going to get an earful.
I know, Dad. I know. I don't want it.
Right.
And I think it was very helpful and to let him be, because you don't want to make it worse.
Yep. And that's what my point is like, not everything needs to be a life lesson. You're not the best teacher in all aspects of life all the time, especially for hockey. If you haven't played, like, you don't have the best advice to give. Right? So it's do your best when it's appropriate. But the point of my thing here is like, sometimes it's actually better for you to just shut up and not say anything and just be there to listen and let them vent or not. Yeah. But the most important thing is you're not making a bad situation or a negative situation more negative while trying to be positive. And the way that I first learned this lesson is I was listening to a Jordan Peterson thing, and he was talking about when like a family member dies or something, like that's not a happy time.
No.
And there's nothing you can do to make those moments better.
Yeah. Still make
There's
it worse.
nothing you can do. So the best thing you can do is not make it worse.
Yeah.
That's
so true, man.
And that's where I learned the lesson from.
So
It's like,
true.
don't be the person that makes the shitty situation worse.
Yeah.
If you got to go to a family dinner and you can't stand your in-laws,
Yeah.
just don't make it worse, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let it be what it is, and
Yeah.
don't make it worse, because you're not going to make it better.
Yeah.
So just let it be.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
a really, really
so
important.
smart.
Yeah, it's
So
a really
smart.
important lesson. And
Yeah.
the last piece, and I'll throw back to you, is you already mentioned like not overdoing it. You don't want to overcoach and all that stuff, but you don't want to minimize whatever the teenager is going through, because sometimes, and I've done this a lot too, is and we've talked about this, where somebody comes to you with a problem and like the solution is so clear to you what you need to do, but the person doesn't want to hear what your solution is. Like they need to figure it out. So like don't hijack their problem and make it like, oh well, just do this. It's like sometimes they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not asking for a coach right now.
Yeah.
And so like you said with Charlie, he said to you like,
Yeah.
sometimes I just need to vent.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what he
And
said.
he's not looking for you
Yeah.
to give him a life lesson
Yeah.
of how to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
And that's actually making the situation worse, because now they
Yeah.
don't want to talk to you, because
Yeah.
they know every time they talk to you, they're going to get an earful about what they could be doing or whatever.
Yeah, and especially in today's get closer to the mic.
Yeah.
Especially in today's society, what people have learned how to do is bubble wrap their kids.
Yep.
Right. So, and maybe I'm guilty of it. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe. But he's gone away. He wants to play in the NHL. I would like him to have his dreams come true. I would like him to learn as much lessons as he can. But now that he's moved away and he has chosen this as a profession, I can't solve all his problems.
No.
And I can't protect him from making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to, even though I don't think anything, but maybe I'm just using something for example. For example, I know Sidney Crosby is the best hockey player in the world. I also know he's the hardest worker and he dedicates his life. He doesn't have social media and there's no controversy in his life because he's so dialed into hockey. It's not even funny. Best in the world, hardest worker in the world. How are you going to compete with that? So I can get that thing to my son every day. Did you do this? Did you do this? Are you here? Are you working? I don't think so, son. No, you know what? He might, not that he's doing this. He might need to dog it in practice a couple days and not stay for a skill session and maybe not back check harder. You get mentally soft for a bit so the coach whacks him because he has to figure it out.
And this is what I was
You know
gonna
why?
say. Yeah.
It ain't my dream anymore.
Yeah.
He has to want it bad enough because I will go nuts. Like he'll go nuts. I'll go nuts. We'll have a bad relationship if in 4 years I told him everything he wanted to do and he just didn't want to do it because he doesn't want to be an actual hockey player.
Yep.
He has to want it. And it's at this point now, even though he's 15 years old, it's none of my actual business.
Yep.
He's got his school paid for. And then if he chooses to screw off on that too, I've done my job, man. Like I'll always be his dad, but it's all up to him now. Yep. He's got to solve it. And part of it might be, Dad, I need help, or Dad, beat it.
Yeah, and
I need to figure it out, and that's okay.
Right, and that's the other half I was going to say. So on the one part, it's the vent thing. Like sometimes just let them vent and shut up. And the other thing is sometimes there's lessons they need to learn.
100%.
It's like, Dad, I don't have lunch for today. Well, let me drive up to bring you lunch.
Yeah.
It's like, no, go figure it out, dude.
Yeah.
Like make some food.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to use the stove
because I don't have money. I'm like, yeah, because you blew it all going out for lunch every day. You dumb.
Right. So it's like sometimes they need to learn their own lessons. Right. Don't solve every problem that they have for them.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the two things I wanted to finish off on for me. Perfect. Is because all that stuff we talked about is good. And then sometimes like that just doesn't even apply. Sometimes just don't do it. Just don't do anything. So you have to try to find that line of where to be helpful, where your input is asked for, or where your input will be taken. Yeah. Because it's like trying to get someone to work out that has no interest in working out, man. They need to want it first, and then you can help, you know?
Yeah, I was the best example I ever had. When I was in my journey of life after hockey, those 6 years, 7 years, whatever it was, 6 years. I remember I told you this. I said, like, I wanted to work, and I wanted to go to work with the passion that I had for hockey. It frustrated me, and I tried. So I'd sit there with a sales manager at Pitney Bowes. Sales manager, regional manager would be like, okay, man, like, you got this. He's telling me all the good things I have, and they were true. Like, I had a way with people. had a way with, I could sell the ice cream to an Eskimo if I really wanted to and go into the process, right? But you know what? You can't play pool with a rope.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
You could sit there and there's $100,000 on the table if you go out, do this, this, and this on top of what you're going to make. And I would say, yeah, cool. And I wouldn't have done it because I didn't care. I was not passionate about this thing. And when you try to play pool with a rope, it doesn't work. You can't play. You're just going to frustrate yourself trying to motivate something that can't be motivated, that doesn't have the drive.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If you have the drive, then it's easy. They'll do it themselves anyways.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, I think that's good. We've been going for like 2 hours. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. We can wrap it in. Let's get anything else?
No, I'm good.
No? Okay. I think we addressed everything, right?
Probably.
Got it? Okay. All right.
Detail about stuff.
All right.